All right, it is I've got 7:03. I think we should go ahead and get started, and the others will join us and I think just about everybody's here already anyway. But I wanted to say good evening to everyone. Welcome to Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship, our February presentation. And tonight we have a wonderful speaker, Andi Rosenau. The topic tonight is quantum creativity for new Earth architects. And this is about the power of language. Thank you for joining us this evening. If you're here for the first time, welcome. And if we're so glad you found us, and if you've been with us before, welcome back to the SFF community. We really are glad everybody's here, and we're doing some marketing things, and we're going to expect bigger crowds here in the upcoming future. My name is Smith Prim. I'm the co-chairman for the Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship, along with Catherine Smart. Catherine is also our writer and editor. Kim Kasdorf is with us tonight. He's our media director. So he handles getting the video together and doing a great job and getting it up on YouTube so that you can see the archive of our speakers. The one thing you won't see on YouTube, which is unique to being here tonight, is the question and answer period. So I'm glad that you made it live, because you'll have an opportunity after the original or the initial presentation to ask questions and get some more feedback. We're also going to, and this was at the request of Andi, during the presentation, if you have a question about the concepts that she's presenting, go ahead, raise your hand, or send me send a text or raise your hand. I'll try to be looking out for it. I'm certainly not looking for it. So I'll be looking for your hand or looking for a text if you have a question and that you would like to ask Andi about what she's presenting. And then we can get into the further, deeper Q&A at the end of the presentation. We also have Eileen Jenna. She is our program director and coordinator. She is responsible for bringing the great speakers that we have here at Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship. So thank you, Eileen. We want you to know that SFF here is here for you. Our nonprofit, all volunteer-run organization is here to help you develop and enhance your spiritual, mystical, and metaphysical awareness and consciousness. We do that by sponsoring programs like the one tonight, designed to facilitate your personal growth and development and a holistic and spiritual approach to health and living. Our program is being recorded, something that everybody should know. If you don't want to be recorded, you can simply turn your camera off, and that's just fine. Most people don't have a problem with it, but if you do, just turn it off. Before I usually when I do the meditation, but Andi said that she had a meditation that she would like to share with us tonight. So we're gonna mix it up a little bit. And I wanted to take a moment to introduce our speaker, Andi Rosenau. She's a writer and a trained intuitive energy reader, and the founder of Sacred Dragon Publishing. That will be part of her presentation tonight, is talking a little bit about her publishing work and how it's offered to the public. Tonight's Andi will be introducing the concept of quantum creativity, and you are the co-creator with your higher self and higher consciousness of. Andi will help us examine, and this is from our website, the new lexicon about building the new Earth. So that's a concept that she'll bring out as it is emerging out of the distorted language and the altered ego, which has been driving our third dimensional experience of fear and separation. So without any further ado, she's got a lot to talk about. I'm going to introduce Andi Rosenau.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction, Smith. I really appreciate it. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you, Eileen, for inviting me. I met Eileen and Vincent at a retreat we did a few months ago, and I just had a really great connection, so I'm thrilled to be here. So just a full disclosure, my background is I'm a criminal prosecutor for over 20 years, and I was also a military officer. So the only reason I bring that up is that I come to you with a detailed op plan as I would, showing up in court or for some kind of military operation. That said, I also wanted to make sure that this is a very interactive, and I'm here to be with you. So even though I have a kind of a prepared program and points to talk about, really this is about co-creating. We're always co-creating. So even in this moment with this presentation, I want you to feel like you are part of this co-creation, because in fact you are. Even if you're not necessarily sharing words or asking a question, we are co-creating energetically in this space. So I do try and tune into that and, adjust as I feel, the interest asks for, or as your questions come in. So again, as Smith said, please feel free to chime in during the presentation, especially if I'm bringing up a concept or terminology that you're not familiar with, or terminology that you've heard, but you're kind of asking for more clarity on how perhaps it's being used in this context. So with that, oh, and the other kind of upfront point I wanted to make is that despite my courtroom background and usual need for PowerPoints, I decided not to do that. And I've really moved away from using PowerPoints because I would like us to be more drawn to an energetic connection, feeling the sacred space that we're creating together and shifting out of that kind of left brain analytical side that kind of wants to categorize and sort, and instead opening up to more of a whole brain experiential, connected, kind of unified experience. So I'll be talking. I do have a couple of little graphics to throw up at the end, but mostly it's kind of, like I said, that shared experience. I'll be talking, I'll be sharing, and I look forward to your sharing as well. So with that, as Smith said, I did want to start with an opening meditation, the purpose being kind of what I was just talking about, creating that sacred space for us to connect and move together in this next hour or so that we'll be sharing. So with that, I'd like to invite those who feel comfortable doing so to just relax and move into a quiet space, connecting with your breath. Feel free to close your eyes or not, whatever and wherever you feel most called to just start moving in to your heart space, moving out of your brain, the sorting, thinking about the day, deeper, deeper into your heart space. And as you move into that space, continue clearing out, moving out the thoughts of the day, and notice that as you're clearing and moving deeper into your heart space, there's a little light there. And begin focusing your attention on that light. And I invite you to consider that light as your diamond heart center. So moving closer to that diamond heart center. And as you get closer, feel the stillness that starts to pervade your experience. This is a still point. This is a way of coming to a still point where you're connected with your diamond heart center. Now, the diamond heart allows us to open to receiving and connecting with the world around us, the energetic world around us, with our higher self, with higher consciousness. So from that still point, connected with your diamond heart, I invite you to open up your heart and expand, transmitting, opening to everyone that is in this beautiful sacred circle today, and creating a pillar of light as our diamond hearts connect with one another, filling our entire space with this sacred, beautiful pillar of light. Now, as we allow ourselves to sit in this pillar of light for the remainder of our time together, we can bring our focus back into our physical body, starting with our heart center, and then moving our awareness more and more into our physical form. Finally, kind of opening back up into our more analytical space, opening our eyes and reconnecting. You. So from within this beautiful pillar of light, we'll go ahead and get started. So the framework for our exploration today is I want to kind of create a framework to establish kind of a sense of purpose. The why. Why are we here today? Why are we talking about creating a new earth paradigm? And what does that even mean? Smith was really helpful. We had a little chat ahead of time. And he goes, well, what do you mean by new earth, Andy? So when I'm using the term new earth, and again, this is a kind of presentation about words, so it's very helpful to kind of give some clarity to what I mean by new earth for purposes of this discussion. But I also want to add that, these are just their concepts that are open to interpretation. That's the whole point. We want to be open and available to what does that mean to you? How is that relevant in your world? But for today's purposes, what I'd like to suggest is that New Earth is really already here. And what I mean by that is, what if in this experience that we're having as humans, we're kind of like little radios. And when we're tuned into a particular station or a particular world experience, that's what we see and hear. But there's also lots of other layers and lots of other densities, frequencies that are existing at the same time. We're just not tuned into them. So New Earth is simply the idea that we are shifting into a higher frequency, a higher vibration as humans, and therefore our landscape and the planet and Mother Earth are also opening up and moving into that higher frequency with us. So it's a revealing. I actually like to call it renewed earth because it's a revealing. So it's not going anywhere. It's where we are now, but just seeing it and experiencing it from a higher frequency, a higher vibrational viewpoint. But why does that matter? Well, it starts with the premise that the primary shared paradigm of humanity, as we're experiencing it now, is a distortion from pure source or God source at the level of third density meaning density of form, and third and fourth dimensional levels of consciousness. That's our current paradigm. In other words, the primary frequency of our collective reality field is based on a distortion of being separate or separation from God source, consciousness, pure source. So you can kind of think of it like, let's say, pure source, just to put a number and give a sense, was 10. And we're experiencing it at 3. And the higher we move, the greater the closer we move to pure source, the higher that number goes. So if we're at third density, third, fourth, fifth levels of consciousness, there's where we are. And we're moving up, ascending towards that higher consciousness in a stepped and gradual way as a collective. So why would we want to do that? Well, perhaps because this idea of being separate from source, separate from each other, even to a sense, separate from ourselves, from our true selves, because of this distortion of separateness, we may want to, improve on that, if you will. So without getting in too much of a discourse about why, what, or how archonic or dark forces may be at work to keep humanity in this state of separation, because it's certainly working for some, let's consider that perhaps there are various beings and consciousnesses which are also aimed at keeping humanity from expressing at a higher frequency, the frequency of unity consciousness. And in fact, we're being kind of somewhat blocked from experiencing that level of frequency and that level of consciousness. So perhaps we want to move out of that so we have a closer connection to source, a closer connection to ourselves, a closer connection to each other. So I'd also like to introduce this idea just for purposes of consideration. And again, our talk is just to kind of introduce ideas, see how they land for you. What do they bring up? If you feel like sharing something, raise your hand. You don't have to. These are just seeds that I'm kind of offering that kind of build to, where we're perhaps going as New Earth architects. So for purposes of our talk, let's consider that one of the powerful tools for keeping humanity in this state of separation from pure source is an inverted or distortion of the true organic source frequency. In other words, it's an inversion that tells us we're separate from each other, we're separate from God. And they use there's words and ways of handling the situation here on Earth that continue that concept by sowing seeds of fear, hate, and survival-based thinking. It's an inverted view of reality. In other words, what if we're kind of living in an upside down world where everything that we see is not always what it actually is? And I want to suggest this. It's interesting that scientifically, it's been shown that our eyes actually invert what is perceived to make it look right side up. You can Google it and you can check it out. I think that's a fascinating concept. Our eyes are actually created to upright this kind of perhaps upside down inverted world that we're living in. So what if our purpose on this ascension journey is simply to see the world as it truly is, uprighted, without this distortion of separation? more fully aligned with God's source, expressing as our true selves in a new world paradigm based on wholeness, unity, love, Christ consciousness, new earth, tuning in to the new, renewed, revealed earth that is available to us when we're ready to see it. And I would suggest that we're right on that cusp. That's why I'm here today. That's why we're here today. What if there is no one out there coming to rescue us to create this new earth reality, as some may think? What if we are the architects of that new reality, of that world experience, of that world reality that we want to experience? How do we take accountability for that creative force? And what do we need in our toolkits as New Earth architects to become the creators of the new earth that we want to bring forth for ourselves, for others, and for the greater good? What if we are, in fact, the architects of New Earth? Thoughts? Take a moment. If anyone would like to share, please chime in.
Smith here. I'll chime in real quick. Yeah, the New Earth concept. I was believing, I guess, recently with happenings on or in our environment. It's like somebody's going to show up. Somebody's going to, is going to be helping us at some point, and that didn't happen. And that very thought that you had, we are here. We will be the ones to rescue ourselves, and that's where I kind of arrived at. So, and it gave me, in a way, it was scary for a moment, but it was actually more empowering because we're going to save ourselves in this and elevate to this higher level. It was my feelings, and I see that there is a Sharon Regi raised her hand.
I did. Thank you.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Sharon Raji Maynard. I come from a different, I'll say, thought process to bring me to what you just said, Andy, and I totally am in alignment with what you've said to this point, and especially the fact that we are here to make that change ourselves. So that is always what was necessary, and so I'm just saying yes, from my perspective and from my teachings, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to chime in too. Always have to, Andy. So I've heard recently myself, and it's been brought up, and you even mentioned it, that it's going to happen for us. That the earth and everything, and there's going to be lights, and there's going to be this, and there's going to be that, and all we have to do is wait for it, and then jump into it when it occurs. And I'm like sitting there listening to this stuff, going, is it a train? Is it a bus we have to jump on? What is it that we have to jump into? And with the work that we've been listening to, isn't that enough? So it seems like there is mention, and that's even in our realm, yours and my realm, this, some spiritual concepts that you just have to be willing to go with the flow when it happens, but it's going to happen to us and for us. So what I'm hearing you say is, no, not really. We're going to have to do that.
Yeah. And I, my feeling on that, thank you, Vincent. My feeling on that is really, it's kind of however people are called. Okay. So like on one hand, we don't have all the answers. So let's just agree on that. We have these ideas, but I do feel that, perhaps people that are on this call, people that hear that kind of are driven to be the new earth architects, that's your calling. Perhaps we could even say, you know, we're the builders, if you feel that. But I also think that for those who aren't necessarily tuned into that, that's not their station, that with enough of those builders, enough of the people stepping forward, taking accountability as the architects of where we're going, then there's going to certainly be a number of people who find their train, their bus, whatever, and you know, their experiences, wow, this just happened, and they jumped on board. Fantastic. It's not, so I think, you know, there's just many, many ways in which people are going to experience whatever this ascension point is, the flash point, if that's how it occurs, or maybe it's gradual. This is speaking to those who are ready and hear and feel in their hearts the idea of being called to be a participant in creating that world that we're moving into. Because at the end of the day, I do come back to your point, Vincent, which is it's us, baby.
Andy, there was two more questions. One was Pam and then Chuck.
Okay.
So Pam Salem, you can unmute.
I was going to say not a question so much, but an observation. I had been studying Rudolf Steiner and a sculpture that was done at the Goethe Museum in Europe. And for many years, I had seen it as Christ balancing two forces on earth, Ahriman and Lucifer. And I had seen Ahriman mostly as technology, and Lucifer is drawing us away from the earth and maybe into fantasy or romance. And it struck me last month that the Christ figure is the Christed humanity. And it gave me a whole different perspective on that statue and on the meaning of it. I was looking at it outside it, and all of a sudden it put me inside it, if that makes any sense. And so, you know, that to me is where humanity is trying to go in that, to balance that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. And if we have time, it's really interesting that you brought up Lucifer. I'll be throwing up a graphic at the end. Hopefully we'll have time for it. And you'll see how there is this inverted world I spoke about. I have some kind of ideas about what that Luciferian kind of context is. And it's not a scary thing. It's not like in a devil sense, but it's a balance. Like you said, it's simply a balance, shadow and light. So,
Right.
and in Christ consciousness, God consciousness, it's all like, it's all of that. And we balance it in ourselves as humans and as a collective. So thank you for that share.
Yeah, the balance was humans on earth. So I agree
That's
we're
us.
all
Yeah.
one. So that's kind of our job. And I just hadn't seen it that way.
And Chuck, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's whether I think it's going to appear to be us at least. It's hard to say how these things really happen, but it could be, we've all chosen to come here at this time, and who are the other people that came? It could be people that are us from the future coming back to some extent. So it's us, but coming back, but it's going to be humanity doing it on its own, basically, I think. But we'll have guidance. I'm sure we'll have guidance if we ask for it and all that kind of thing. So,
yeah, just like to the point of even that the Christ figure, there or this idea of, you know, tuning into different levels. There's consciousnesses and beings at these different levels that I do think we are invited to co-create with, which kind of moves us into the next concept of quantum creativity, which is that idea that, you know, we can co-create with the vastness of potential out there. But, you know, it's up to us what we want to engage with. We're not kind of victims to that. It's more of a sovereign request for assistance, not a rescue mission or like save us. Yeah.
I think part of that also is that we choose to do this. It's our free will. So we choose to do it.
Right. Going back to Vincent's point, and not everyone's going to choose that. So that's why it's such a different experience for many. But let's move on in the interest of time to see if we can get through some other points that kind of develop this. Does that work for you, Smith? Okay, we'll just move on then. So this takes us into, now that we have kind of that context, but before we start creating anything, I invite you to kind of take this little journey with me to explore, what are you co-creating with? Who are you co-creating with? And how are you engaging with that co-creative process? So to kind of guide that conversation, I'd like to introduce the concept of quantum creativity. The idea of quantum creativity is that we are engaging in a creative process that is focused more on our state of being than doing. A lot of times when we think of creating, there's kind of like a busyness to it. You know, you have to do and have, you know, show some result for this time that you've been doing. But what if real creation at a higher level occurs more in a being state than a doing state? And to that point, I'd like to share just a quick story. So one of the things I did in my past was I was an administrative director for a Buddhist temple, a fairly large Buddhist temple. And one of my jobs as the administrative director was to engage with the monks and nuns that were there. And I had to spend a lot of time kind of coordinating with them. And when I first started, one of the things that would drive me crazy is I'm there at 9 o'clock or whatever, ready to go. And crickets. None of the ordained people are there, and we can't do anything without them being there. And I was kind of getting frustrated about this. And then one of the nuns pulled me aside and she said, look, before we can engage with the business of the day and create in the way that you would like us to create, we need to be in the correct place of being. We need to be aligned with our higher selves, our, you know, connection to our true selves. And with that, then we can come into the presence and, you know, be more effective. And I'm telling you what, it's so true. When we finally get together, I'm telling you, in an hour, hour and a half max, we'd have the whole day's business or the whole week's business solved. Because we were operating at this frequency where there's not all the distortion of the busyness, and just get to it, and alignment. So that's kind of what inspired me to bring that into my own life. So what is the wisdom in that? And what does that mean? What does that have to do with quantum creativity? Well, by being more focused on your state of being, where your consciousness is at, your frequency, your vibrational frequency, it opens us up to be more expansive and to consciously begin to create with consciousnesses and energy beyond the known, beyond the seen. It calibrates our inner compass to commune and communicate with higher frequency consciousness for our highest good, in alignment with our higher self, God source, and gives us a connection to our higher self, guides, collective consciousnesses who are so available and happy to help us if we invite them. And that's the difference. The benevolent beings aligned with pure source, aligned with unity Christ consciousness, are only here to help us when we invite them. It's not forced upon us. And that's something that is a helpful thing to know when you're discerning what energies do you want to work with. Does it feel like it's being pushed on you, or do you hear and make that invitation and feel the response? Operating in this realm of quantum creativity also establishes a higher frequency conduit for receiving and transmitting messages and guidance that become the basis for our thoughts and actions that we use to create with. I call this the joy frequency. So part of quantum creativity is creating at the level of joy frequency. Now, there's, I can't, the first, Stephen Hawking, is it Stephen Hawking? No, not Stephen Hawking. But anyways, there's a kind of paradigm of levels of consciousness. And they're assigned kind of these frequencies. And the joy frequency is it's actually above the love frequency. And it's a very engaged and dynamic frequency, but it also has a kind of a stillness to it. So sometimes when we think of joy, it's like, oh, it's not that kind of a frequency. It's just a high frequency that kind of fills you with bliss, but you're still, at a calm state of being. It's not an ecstatic state of being. And the beauty of being in the joy frequency, and I would offer to you that the nuns and monks that I worked with at the Buddhist Center had joy frequency nailed. Because you just look at them and they're literally just emanating just a pure presence, now blissful, joyful. Nothing's going to shake these folks. So that's part of opening up to this, exploration of higher frequency. It gives us this ability to create from the joy frequency as part of our creative process. The next piece of this is turning into what I call genius flow. Genius flow is when we attune to that joy frequency and become a rod of light that alchemizes the higher frequency potentials out there and bring them into the form reality experience through our rod of light, through our genius flow with that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with this concept of quantum creativity, creating with our higher selves, guides, collectives, bringing it in through a high frequency rod of light where we can receive and transmit. And in doing that, we are anchoring that higher frequency into the earth, allowing ourselves to also co-create with the earth and with all the, humanity that's present. So it's a very, very powerful way of looking at the idea of creativity, moving, and we're creating every moment. Every choice we make is a creation of our life. The other piece that I just would like to leave us with before we go into question and answers, before we share thoughts on this concept, is that idea of being in flow. In flow. We are not a mass storage unit. This is not about operating from here, what we know. It's about being in flow with the pure potential of all the energy and everything around us. So that's another key piece, is flow. So I just kind of ended up with let her rip. One thing I would suggest, if you're kind of playing with this idea, is that you create buckets for the information, because it can start coming in pretty hard and fast as you open up to this idea of co-creating with the vast potential that's out there. So my experience has been, when I feel like I'm really in that genius flow, I can kind of get like, whoa, 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 feels like a higher fire hydrant that's on full force and you want to jump back. Rather than that, what I've found is giving myself lots of different buckets for the information to kind of fall into. And then I can go back and revisit those buckets as needed. And that's when kind of our left brain sorting analytical piece can kind of start in and breaking down the information that we've received, or connecting the dots, if you will. So with that, I'd like to kind of do a little quick meditation, and then we'll move into questions, maybe on this thought of quantum creativity. So again, I would invite us to again return to that pillar of light that we're in, turning our focus back to that pillar of light. In that pillar of light, we had this still point, at the center of which is our diamond heart. So reconnecting to that. Now from this still point, connected to your diamond heart, allow the luminosity of your diamond heart to illuminate a landscape before you. And in that landscape, notice that your diamond heart is particularly illuminating a hill off in the distance. Now allow the light of your diamond heart to take you on a little journey to that hill. Perhaps you cross over a stream, walk through a forest, swim. Just allow yourself to be drawn towards that hill. And as you approach the hill, go ahead and walk up to the top, or fly up to the top. And when you reach the top, notice that there's a table and chair there. Go ahead, take a seat. And as you're sitting there, notice that as you're calling and looking out, there's a whole collection of beings and images that are just out there looking back at you. And from your hill, sitting on your chair with your table laid out before you, you can begin inviting them in. Inviting the images to come before you and sit across from you What do they have to say? It's like you're interviewing all these beings and images and symbols to see if they align with you and they want to co-create with you, but do you want to co-create with them? And so you begin this process of quantum creativity, being in that genius flow, interviewing those beings, images, symbols that you want to co-create with. And for today, we're going to say, thank you so much for coming by for a visit. We have to move on to something else, so we'll be back another time. But now you know, you can go here anytime when you're ready to co-create with the unseen, with those who are there, ready, willing, and so happy to work with you when you invite them. And with that, we're going to return to our diamond heart. Allow the landscape to dissolve. Come back to your still point. And now begin to return to your physical body. Waking up. And when you're ready, open your eyes. All right. So, yeah, Smith, if you want to open it up for some thoughts and shares on that.
Yes, we had Linnea Marks first, and then Sharon. She had raised her hand, so I'll let Linnea go first.
Hi, I wanted to speak to what Pam was talking about. The statue she's talking about, I actually have, if I can share it. I'm sending a request to share it. It is called the representative of man. It is not Christ. And it's in the Goetheanum in Dornach, Switzerland. And it is about us moving into holding the balance between the two poles. So it's exactly what you're talking about, Andy. And it's a very beautiful piece of artwork that Steiner did himself. And it shows the balance between the harmonic and the luciferic energies. And the luciferic are the ones that would take us out of our body, and they're all about beauty and spirit and no earth. And the harmonic forces are those that would take us deeply into earthly existence with no spirit. And the balance between the two is what we're called to. So it's exactly what you're talking about.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that share, Linnea.
I just wanted to add another piece. You know, when you're speaking about the beingness and the way I've seen that, it's so powerfully exampled is in the Iroquois nations in their confederation of what they call good mind. And you explained it so beautifully. They don't use vibrations; they use a different language. And I think it's really important that we understand all the different ways it's said, and it expands our appreciation of it, I think. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And that's there's no right or wrong, just like this idea of, how we engage with this ascension process. And we're going to now move into talking about words, because really it's what resonates for you. And that's why, in Buddhism, one of the things that I really enjoyed about kind of that phase of my spiritual development was this idea that from Buddha Gautama were all these, different disciples that went out into the world to teach these kind of fundamental concepts to the community that they meet. So there's not like one book or one way of explaining these concepts. It developed through this engagement and shared exchange of ideas with the people as the disciples met these, different groups. And out of that were born all these different ways of explaining, fundamental terms like emptiness And and then you just find the one that resonates for you. And now, but they're all true. And that this idea of letting go that any one way is right or wrong is really, really important. And that's why I so appreciate what SFF is doing in that regard, allowing all these different viewpoints to come forward. And you're a sovereign being. You get to decide what is right for you right now. And what's right for you right now might be completely different a year from now. So, just staying in tune. So thank you very much. That was a lovely share.
Mm-hmm. And we had two more quick ones, one from Wendy Morgan and then Liz after that. Wendy, you're up.
Oh, shoot.
Okay,
can you hear me? All right.
Yes.
Thank you. I really enjoyed that meditation. It was very helpful, and I'll be using it a lot. I would like to hear your concept of Christ-centered, just so I kind of have a firmer idea of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think the term I've been using is Christ consciousness. But to say, so for me, when I use the term Christ consciousness, it is a vibrational frequency that resonates at the pure source or God source frequency for humanity. So it's tuned to the human experience. That's why we have this experience of that Christed consciousness in human form, telling us that it's inside all of us. Each one of us carries this Christ consciousness as a way for us in this human realm, in this experience, to connect with God's source, pure source. So that's kind of how I use that concept.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Liz?
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute myself. There we go. Real briefly before I start, I will say, while I was doing laundry today, I had the song "What's the Frequency, Kenneth" from REM in my head today, and now I know why. So in October of 2019, I believe it was, I had this phrase kind of come to me that was the insurrection of joy. And I really lived into that for about a year. And then, of course, everything happened 4 years ago, and all of a sudden insurrection started feeling like this derogatory term because of what happened culturally. But I really appreciated what you said about the joy frequency and kind of reclaiming that phrase for myself. That was really cool. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more, if you can, about giving yourself buckets, because I do feel like I'm hit with that fire hose of downloads sometimes, and I just don't know what to do with it. I don't have any organizing principle for that. So what does that tangibly look like?
It's going to be whatever, works for you. But for me, I literally view them as buckets, and I give the buckets different colors, because for me personally, that's how, when I come out of the meditation, now I have a visual. Oh yeah, there was that, radiant, purple yellow bucket. And then just that visualization allows me to kind of connect with what I kind of put in that bucket. But if I don't, if it that lasts for maybe, just a little bit after I come out of meditation. So if I feel like there were some buckets that I really want to work with, so just relax. Whatever you put in the bucket is always there. It doesn't go anywhere. It just may be that you don't need to work with all 10 buckets right now, but you created them. They're there. You'll continue to add to them. They're always part of your creative field. But today, as you come out of meditation and you sit in the real, in the physical world, you're like, wow, that purple yellow bucket was pretty profound. Let me take a moment. do some, for me, it's automatic writing, or sometimes I'll record and just blurt it out, write it out. Don't let your left brain get all involved. Just allow it to flow, get it out in some, word form, spoken or written, so that you can come back to it later and then apply the sorting and analytical thing of connecting the dots. But that's kind of my process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And last one before we move on, Vincent.
Yes, real quick, and it may seem easy concept, but how do you get yourself in a joy consciousness?
Oh, Vincent, you had to ask. Well, I love to hip hop dance, and I actually perform. I have videos. Anybody interested, hit me up. I'll send you my latest video. It is the way that I move into joy frequency, and I can just, like, I'll be working and I'll just put on some songs and I'll just start jamming. And the reason that dance works for me is because it gets the electrons moving. It gets the electrons moving and it's connecting me to the harmony of music. For me, it's hip hop or K-pop, doesn't matter. The point being that there's a harmony. My body's moving. I'm connecting to sound, frequency, motion, right? And then I'm just getting completely out of left brain and allowing what I would share is genius flow. And I can't tell you how many times I've been working on a project, come to a block, start, hit the tunes, jam it out for a few minutes. I'm back at it. So that's me. Find whatever it is, and it doesn't have to involve motion. It doesn't have to be music, but the more kind of multimedia, if you will, you add to the experience, the sensory experience, probably the quicker you're going to get there. The interesting thing to me about joy frequency and genius flow, it's like anything else. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And you can get, like, I can get there now. If I decide, I can get there without all that hullabaloo, but it sure is fun, the hullabaloo. But if I don't have time or space, whatever, for the hullabaloo, I can pretty quickly get myself into what I feel as my joy joy frequency genius flow, because I tasted it. What's interesting is in that taste and knowing what it feels like, I'm finding it in other things. And as a publisher and all that, I do a lot of editing. And I used to look at editing as like this task. But now that I've tasted joy frequency, a lot of times when I'm editing, I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I'm in my joy frequency. But in my mind, I had it as like task, job. No, I'm in joy. And wow, does that change things?
I really appreciate that. And what it sounds like you're describing is another form of meditation. Everybody thinks that you have to sit there quietly and stop the left brain thinking. But for those of us who have a difficult time doing that, going to that place, you just said you're bypassing your left brain thinking. And anything that bypasses your left brain thinking is a form of meditation. And going to the joy frequency absolutely sounds wonderful. I'm sure we all have some kind of place and center that we can think of. Like Eileen and I have a new grandbaby and the grandchildren, and man, holding them, envisioning that, thinking about them. I myself am a singer when I go there and I get to that place too. So everybody has something like that then that they can do to get them there. And you're right, that opens up so much for you because you're unclogged that channel. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And pets are another one too, like the animals.
And it's like a muscle. You have to exercise it.
You do it, yeah, but yeah, and the more you exercise it, the more you taste it, the easier to recognize, and then you'll start seeing joy in many areas of your life that you hadn't really even realized that you were in joy because you were just not aware. So, all right, lovely. Okay, let's move on to our next topic, which is building worlds through words. So from the state of co-creative genius flow, we're engaging with our higher self and higher consciousness. But how do we bring that creative vision into the energetic, what I call antimatter, and then physical matter world surrounding us? I'm suggesting that words are by far the prime creative tool for humanity. Without them, not only do we lose our connection through communication, but we also lose a fundamental building block for creating the physical realm. If I'm saying if we didn't have those words, we would lose that building block. So let's think about this. We've all heard this expression. In the beginning, there was the Word. And the Word was with God. This is expressing the principle of the living Word as a creative force of God source energy and its corollary concept, I am Word, which is the action of our individuated expression of God source, love, energy, and consciousness. What? Word. In his best-selling book, The God Code, Greg Braden wrote, God created the world through language as if he were writing a book. So let's pause for a minute and think about that. World is just word with an L added. I have a whole theory on why it's L and not any other letter, and we might be able to have time to touch on that briefly, but just let that sink in. In the beginning, there was word. God created the world through language as if he were writing a book. World, word. But interestingly, despite the immeasurable power of words, we take them for granted without questioning their true power at the energetic level or even how we wield that power. Perhaps think of it like this. Here we are as consciousness in the vastness of primordial pure potential, distilled us into a physical reality experience. Okay. We have a physical body and we have an energetic body or aura that interfaces with that vastness, that pure potential. At the edge of our energy body is an event horizon where our consciousness meets the consciousness of all, God, source, pure potential, the vastness of all. At that event horizon, our consciousness operates to discern what is allowed to cross that event horizon into our energy field, creating bubbles of energy, bubbles of potential. Now, as that energy or that potential continues in towards our more physical expression, our conscious mind begins to register that thought bubble. And then it begins another layer of distillation, sorting through the energetic information that's coming in, discarding some based on our systems of belief, based on mental filters, whatever these refining filters are, they distill it down until eventually a very, very small portion of what is available out there on that event horizon actually comes into a fully formed thought form in our mental state. Now, if you just as a human, we know that most of these thought forms remain as antimatter. In other words, they don't come into matter. They remain as pure potential. But some make it through all the way to the next level of expression, which is what? Word. Thought, word. And as we distill them into word, they become powerful building blocks of our physical experience, our emotional and our entire experience that's charged with the emotional energy that we put behind the words. So you have words that harmonize this energetic potential, and then we charge it with the electricity, if you will, of the energy and emotion that we put behind the words. Now, from word, it's really not that far of a leap to physical manifestation. We do it all the time. So event horizon, distillation, thought, word, physical matter. So with that kind of viewpoint, you can see how words really do refine our experience. They connect us. They bridge antimatter and matter, thought and form. The frequency of the words magnetizes energy into a cohesive construct. It gives us those buckets in a way. They're little buckets of energy and information. And they bring energy into density, alchemizing the field of pure potential into thought form potentialities that then become form. Fair enough. Why does this matter? Because consciously and subconsciously, we are creating worlds through worlds now more powerfully than at any time in our collective memory. Because we're becoming more conscious. So the way that we're using words and the way that we're igniting them, infusing them with our energy is more potent than it's ever been. So I would suggest that now is a great time to take a look at how we are using words. So we are more empowered than ever before in our known history to know and use the power of words, to consciously and conscientiously co-create a new world for the next evolution of humans as crystalline light bodies that I call, and others call, Homo luminous, the illuminated human, the enlightened being. So what do we need in our word toolkits for building a new earth for us as our higher evolved expression, Homo luminous? First, in that toolkit, let's co-create in that quantum field at an omnidimensional level. I thought I had turned that off. Sorry. At an omnidimensional level, creating from the new landscape of pure potential, the unknown, the now. And what I'd like to introduce here is this idea of, do we co-create from the landscape of pure potential at that event horizon, or are we creating from the Museum of History? The Museum of History is what I refer, when I say that, I'm referring to the past. Are we creating from the past? Are we simply replicating the past, recreating the same paradigms and patterns from the past? maybe transmuting some stuff that doesn't really, that doesn't work that much anymore, but we're still creating from this known museum of history? Or are we stepping outside of it and creating from the unknown now, not the past? Okay. That sounds like an interesting idea, perhaps. But I would suggest, we can't necessarily completely discard the Museum of History. Why? Too much. As we've said, this is a progression. So it's taking the frequency, the radio station that we're tuning into now, and enlivening it, illuminating it, so that we move into a higher frequency, but we're still, transmuting and bringing along what we've known, but we're looking at it from a different perspective. So it's not just discarding the Museum of the History, it's working with that, transforming it, transmuting it through this quantum creativity process. So that's one. Quantum creativity, working with the unknown now. The next thing we need in our toolkit, perhaps, is what I call a decoder. This decoder is used to deconstruct and decode word distortions of this inverted paradigm in the Museum of History that have been used to construct a world based on fear and separation, to decode the words that are coming out of the separation operating system. So I'm going to allow you to draw your own conclusions, because this is all about what's right for you, as to the significance or the purpose behind some of these distortions. There's no right way of understanding this. Just open up to the awareness of the frequency shift when you look at taking words from the fear separation paradigm and putting them into the new earth paradigm. So to do this, I need to share, Smith. I need to share screen. Can I do that? Yep, it looks like I can.
Yeah, you have permissions. Yes.
Okay, y'all see my screen there? Okay, so
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, fantastic. So here we go. View. Is there a way to make, well, I think you can I think there's a way to make it whole screen, but I think I can get everything on here. All right. I just want you to sit with that for a minute. The words on, starting with alone, all the words in that line are words coming out of the separation, fear and separation operating system. The words on the other side, I suggest to you, are the truth, the undistorted version of that concept that's coming out of the new earth paradigm as we've been discussing it. I'm going to give you a minute to take a look at that and deal with this phone situation. Okay. All right, so let's look at that. Wow. What about that first one? I've used this several times. Dear ones, we are never alone. Somewhere along the line, that got distorted. The truth is, we are all one. All one. There's not even a concept of alone. It's not a possibility. Evil? Really? Who decided to turn that around? Live, live. There is nothing evil about that. But wow, that's an interesting way that got turned around. Scared of the unknown, what's out there, or holding all the unknown and everything as sacred. I would find these two really interesting. So we get up in the morning. The first thing we do is mourn. I'm just saying, these are just interesting. And when the first thing we do when we get up is go to a wake, as in a death wake. I get that this is, kind of out there, but it's just to open up this idea of how the use of language and the way things this can have been inverted to kind of distort the truth of who we are is all one, living every day alive in this sacred universe, greeting the day, awake and alive. Just saying. So you can draw your conclusions from that as you will. The next piece in the toolkit is what I call the lexicon lab. And the idea of the lexicon lab is that we are taking words that we know and we are imbuing them with a higher frequency. And the purpose in that is to, as I was saying before, bridge where we are to where we're going. It's a gradual shift that we are making as we anchor in higher frequency, illuminating and revealing the new earth. So again, make of it what you will. But what if we were to take words that we are common now and understand them in their higher perspective, give them a higher frequency? For instance, soul. What if the higher frequency use of that word is actually soul, as in star, as in sun, as in recognizing that we are a star, a sun. That might not be our physical expression, but at the highest expressions of ourselves, we are suns and stars. Word, adding that L, making the realization that words are actually creating worlds. That's how we're building our world. Build. What if we look at that as being you and I in the world? Being eternal. Remembering our true selves, remembering us as our true selves. Real. Remembering all that is. That's real. That's the truth. All. Not just our, point of view. Love. What if love is how we evolve at this where we're at, shifting from separation consciousness into Christ consciousness? What if the key to that is love? And that's why it's a part of the word evolve. Universal. Universe, there's that word, all. I like this one a lot. Potential. Wow. We are most potent when it's I and all. So this is just some kind of concepts of this idea of creating a new lexicon for this new earth, taking words we know, but infusing them with a higher frequency meaning and understanding that actually shifts our paradigm. And then the last little thing, as we kind of close this section out, is a little takeaway for you. And so this is kind of summing up what is in your toolkit for New Earth Architects. And I call it that we say that we are links. Because in fact, what I'm suggesting is that we are bridging, we are linking the world we live in now to where we're going. And key to that linking is the lexicon, the words we are choosing to build with, the power that we're wielding with that, and the energy we're infusing them with. Intuition that we retain, that we regain, we resurrect the knowing that we are Christed beings, and trust our intuition, learn to work with it, trust it. Living in the now, not the museum of history, moving into the now, not projecting into the future too much, just living right here now, being our most powerful and potent now. Knowing, not taught knowing, but true wisdom of knowing who and what you are, and the power of who we are as creative, sovereign beings. Links. So we'll stop the share there. And let's see, I'm gonna go a little bit further with this before we open up for questions, because I just want to make a couple more quick points, and it looks like we are almost out of time. So
I wanted to add on the time. So we talked about that, but if you need to go over a few minutes, that's okay too.
I can wrap it up real quick. And then as far as the publishing stuff, we can talk about that in the Q&A. I think that's a great place to put the publishing. So I just wanted to wrap with this. So how is this all playing out in these times of great change, when we are at an unprecedented choice point with many trajectories for humanity, right? I love what Daryl Anka shared with us in one of his channelings with Bashar. Bashar described the Earth right now as a grand central station where there's all kinds of trains, and everybody is deciding what train they want to get on. And we're creating the trains. And then eventually the trains, and they already are, according to Bashar, are going to start leaving the station. And we're going to shift to different, we're going to move into these different realities that each of us are creating with the trains that we're getting on. So I leave you with this idea. What is the world that you're creating? What is the train that you're creating for others to join? And I would suggest there's basically two choice points. One is what I call Homo Luciferius, and that is the group of trains that are artificial. They're replicated. They're based on the replication of the Museum of History, based on fear and separation. Or the trains in the Homo Luminous category or view that are creating from the pure potential of pure source energy and taking us into a new Earth. So that's kind of where we'll leave it. Just go out there, shine your light. Let's just kind of close with that, bring that pillar of light back into our hearts. And then I'll make a brief little shout out to an event that's coming up, and then we can move on to our break. So in closing, I would invite you all to just return your focus to that pillar of light that we started with in the beginning. Wow. Even if you didn't, say anything particularly, just you being present has filled that pillar of light in profound ways. We did a great job. So now what I'd like you to do is take all that energy from this gorgeous pillar of light, bring it back into your diamond heart center, all of it. Don't leave anything out. And then take that beautiful diamond heart, place it back into your heart center, into your chakra, knowing that whatever you received here today, whatever it was, it's always there for you to return to when the time is right. I love you. From my heart to yours. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Andy. I want to invite everyone to give. What did you have to say? Something?
Yeah, I did. Before the break, I want to give a shout out to our event. Can I do that now?
You sure can.
All right, great. So Vincent and Eileen, as for those of you that were kind of on here earlier, I got to do a quick screen share. Screen share. Vincent and Eileen are going to be joining me in Sedona for the Sedona Ascension Retreat. And I'm throwing up a quick flyer about that right now. It's going to be at the Performing Arts Center in Sedona, Arizona. And you can see Vincent right there. And we're so excited that he's going to be there. And our vendor tables were right next to each other. So we're going to have a fun time. But this is our 10th year anniversary. And so it's really going to be a super special event. And I know it's kind of late in the game. It's March 14th through 16th out in Sedona. But if any of you are interested in joining us there, it really is a wonderful, wonderful event. Vincent might want to chime in on that a little bit. But if you're interested, we're offering a discount code of 10% to anybody that was a participant in this gathering, or if SFF wants to share the code, it's simply SFF code. And you can go to the Sedona Ascension Retreat website and learn all about this wonderful event. As far as me and Sacred Dragon Publishing, that's how you can reach me at sacreddragonpublishing.com. And I'd love to hear from you, even if it's just to share about, your thoughts on what we did today. You can go to my website and there's a little, connect with me, and, we can connect up that way. But I see Vincent waving his hand and getting excited.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm so excited about participating. I actually was part of their Transcendence retreat in September, which is absolutely amazing. And this is about 3 times the size of that at an incredible venue. And see, there's one thing, if everybody here remembers when we used to get together, there is something about being in person that makes an incredible difference in sharing energy, especially at one of these retreats where they have such incredible speakers. And I love being a part of that concept and a journey with everyone. It just, each person's energy winds up raising another person's energy. And that so speaks on what you were speaking about today, Annie, about being as one, and you get to experience that. And of course, the great luminaries that are going to be there, I work with several of them already and know them well. Their work is incredible. And nobody leaves there feeling the same way they did when they arrived. They take the power with them, which is so incredible, and why I love participating in these live events. So I would highly recommend it, not to mention the separate journey that they do, the outdoor journeys besides the lectures and the incredible workshop, the outdoor journeys they do in Sedona. And if you have not had a chance to go to Sedona, do not miss this opportunity. It is amazing, the energy, especially now. And so you all know, astrologically, if you were here when Bernie Ashman was talking about how powerful this year is, when you go to a retreat like that this year, it multiplies. Yes, yep. Exactly. Right. It multiplies the incredible, intense experience you wind up going through. So I'm excited. And thank you for getting that discount for everybody too, Annie. That was great. So thank you for bringing it up.
And secret disclosure, if you go, you're going to see me dance.
Excellent.
All right. About that, that's worth it just for me to go see.
All right, that wraps it for me. I know we're taking a break, and I'll be here for your questions afterwards. So take it away, Smith.
Okay. All right, everyone. I want to, everyone, if they can, give a hand to Andi Rosenau for her talk tonight on quantum creativity for new Earth architects. We're so happy that you are here tonight, and wishing you the best, you and Vincent, the best on the Sedona trip. If I can make it, I will. I'm not going to rule it out. It's not on my calendar right at the moment, but now you've got me excited. So hope others can get excited too. So I'm going to take a 1 second or a couple of seconds pause of silence.
Thank you.